Holy shit. Here we are, episode 99, one away from 100, one away from the big rebrand. I still can't get a hold of our graphic designer. It's been a few months, so I don't know what we're going to do about all that, but I don't even care. I don't freaking give a heck. Who cares what your mom says?
Whoa.
I am
language,
so excited.
Tom, language.
So excited for this right now. When we started this show, I never in a million years thought it would get this far, but I also wanted it to last forever. So there's a disconnect there. But hello, guys. How are you?
I'm well.
Well.
Okay.
Well.
This is actually, I'm glad Zach joined us and has been joining us as of late, because this is an episode I've been wanting to do for a very long time. It's kind of the perfect launching point to the century mark. And when we shift more towards pretty much only talking about early 2000s music and analyzing the scene or scenes, and, you know, was it a bad or the worst music decade to grow up in? So
No other
that's pretty much the show moving forward. So why not in episode 99, which again, Tom, like you mentioned, is insanity. Let's talk about the scene in Erie, PA that we grew up in. I think early 2000s scenes are delightfully weird things in little micro environments, and I am honestly super looking forward to talking about Erie's with the both of you. Do you guys have any specific? I don't know. How should we start this out? Mostly, I guess, if you in one sentence had to describe a local scene in the early 2000s, what like first comes to mind?
For me, I mean, the Erie music scene in, 2004 when we started playing shows. Are you talking about the Erie scene in general, or just like the vibe of that era?
You could pull from the Erie specifically. It could be,
Okay.
you could talk about the clothing. You could talk about a specific show that kind of highlights it for you. Is there one show that sticks out, whether it was a push pit or some goofy, overly aggressive Christian hardcore, oddly physical pit that threw you into an auditorium chair at the local community first center or anything like that? Or maybe pick a show that defines it for you, Zach or Tom.
I'd say like very early on, we were kind of a pop punk band, and I just remember our first show at the Edinburgh Hangout, and everyone was like beat down metalcore, and just felt like we totally came in at the wrong time. But over the next few years, things kind of shifted.
I think that's probably the best. And Zach, I apologize for cutting you off continually as we start the episode, but I think the subgenres of hardcore that branched out from the fall of 2004 to the spring of 2007 was the most obscure, dumb. Every song had a breakdown for no reason, and people were just punching each other in the fucking face, like, straightening their hair and then fighting in the evening. It was so weird. It was
If you held a cigarette, you were the enemy. If you
yes.
saw a beer once in your life,
Christian.
You were the enemy. Anything fun was against the rules, except for hair straightening and face punching.
I think, Zach, your band Tyrannic Fusion that came kind of at the tail end of all that was like the culmination of the perfect, like, electronica hardcore had to have a breakdown, punch throwing pits. Am I wrong there, or?
But also very auto-tuned poppy choruses and stuff, which not a bad thing. Not a bad
So
thing.
Tyrannic Fusion was like a pop techno hardcore porn groove. and we cherished the fact that we created porn groove in Erie, Pennsylvania. I don't think there was any other porn groove band.
You guys
out
had
there.
some momentum.
Yeah, there was some momentum there. Yes, that was at the tail end of that time, though.
I guess we should back it up to the very beginning.
We should. Yeah, definitely. Because there's many things to talk about.
Because I think at the first show I went to at the Hangout, maybe we should describe the Hangout first, which is in Edinburgh, which is a college town south of Erie.
Yeah, we're getting all out
79.
of order, like right out.
Yeah. Let's start way back. I think the first show. So my parents went to Edinburgh University, and they described the Hangout, which is one of two venues really of like significance in the Erie scene.
Sure.
There was that and Forward Hall. Forward Hall was in the city of Erie. But Edinburgh, the Hangout, you had to get a ride there from either your parents, right? Who were we kidding? Or somebody going back down to college or something like that.
It was a 30-minute drive from downtown.
Legitimately, yeah. But it was an old movie theater that had been transitioned into a local hangout center through the years. So the floors kind of slanted down towards what would have been the old movie theater screen, which allowed for kind of an interesting push the crowd towards the stage concept. Did you guys like that, or was that always weird to you?
Well, it was easier to fall that way. So so everybody liked it. The chance for blood and gore increased. So everybody liked that. Yes. Yeah.
I guess I never really noticed it and never thought it was that weird until this very second. Like I guess I'm aware, I was cognizant of a gradual slant, but any time that I was there, it was just like, being from Erie, that's all we had. It wasn't even in Erie. So anytime that I was at the Edinburgh Hangout, I felt like I was on, like, in some kind of literal heaven. The music scene at the time was very important to me. So all I really cared about was, like, seeing all my friends and, like, listening to music and stuff. I guess the floor wasn't a main concern when I was 16.
I always thought that the Hangout was not a movie theater. Actually, I only thought this for like 45 minutes when the first time Tom and I went there for like this swap meet gift shop thingy with acoustic music.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that place was the bowling alley with the slanted floor, like something real trendy and hip. They're trying something new. No, it was next door. I just got confused. I was like, man, this is a really cool, neato bowling alley.
So I kind of want to talk about the range of shows that I saw there that it always felt different and weird. You'd find like a black t-shirt that wasn't too, I don't know. I feel like, did you feel there was scene attire that was totally different than what you would have worn to, say, like the football game that Friday night or anything like that? Did you feel yourself or notice yourself dressing differently to go to something at the Hangout? Or
I was scene queen all the time.
That was kind of your aesthetic. I will say that.
And I was there too for a time. I tried on the pants. I wore them. And I always liked flannels, and that was very prevalent in that scene. And I still wear flannels. In fact, one of the flannels I wore at that swap meet gift shop acoustic musician type thing that Tom and I went to, I had a flannel, and I still have that flannel actually, and it barely fits me.
Yeah, the blue one.
Is it the blue one?
No, that was a jacket. That was a coat that had a hood on it.
That's right.
No, just an actual flannel shirt. It was red, black, and white and gray, and it was lumberjacky. And I still have that one.
Yeah, what's really funny? So Brian Morganti posted something on Facebook. It was like an old like banner that he had for his solo act, and he was wearing like the super tight pants, the gloves, and just looking how he did in 2006. And someone was like, "Oh, where's your fingerless wool gloves?" And I commented something like, "Man, I remember I got a pair from you, like Brian, at that free whatever swap thing." And he was like, "Dude, how do you still remember that?" And I said, "Because I still have the gloves."
He used to drag. So, like, of all the weird acts we used to see, Morgani's music was he was a talented musician. But he would always bring, like, he'd be with a girl that he was with at the time.
Yeah.
And they'd bring, like, their wardrobe, and just if anybody was interested in buying the clothes they owned or something, like, he brought his own swap meet with him to every show, which I thought was like,
that popular.
The most entrepreneurial spirit of a, like, solo music. Like, if he was going to drag all his crap to a show, he was going to drag all of it, and anything went. Like, anything that he could exchange for money, I feel like he kind of went for, which I didn't know how to feel at first, but looking back, that's definitely, I mean, he was grinding for sure.
Yeah, I looked up to him a lot, man. And after he was like, I could not believe how many people he would bring out to these shows just to play like an acoustic act. But everyone in the scene kind of started doing that, like the Christian acoustic solo acts, and trailblazer for sure, man.
Put on a pair of those black and white checkered Vans and just go to town. Occasionally swiping your hair along one of the eyebrows and then straight down your face after you got to the edge of it. I'm trying to think of some of the craziest shows we saw. There was this one guy so there was like definitely copycatters. There was this, I forget the name of the band, but it was definitely like trying to be a Taking Back Sunday act. And the guy was trying to be Tyler, what's his name? Or no, Adam
Lazzara.
Adam Lazzara. he finished an entire gallon of Arizona iced tea on stage. Like that was his honey for his voice or something, but he must have been horribly misinformed.
So-
He was just like scream singing like Adam Lazzara, but worse, obviously, because it was just, I don't know. It was just magical to watch. Kind of swinging the mic, but not well. I don't know.
Was that This Is the Weather by any chance?
That's a really good question. I think this band was from Jamestown or something. They might have been out of town, but I do want to hear your This Is the Weather takes.
No, it's just I was just talking to Nate Norgren yesterday about trying to finish up the design work for this show. He was in that band. I think it might actually be him you were talking about.
No, I think this band was out of town because they were the Sleepover Pizza Band, right? The one. that had the
Oh,
lyrics
Another
about it.
Found Self.
Another Found Self. Never mind.
Dude.
There's so many.
No,
like,
dude, Julian was the bomb.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so Another Found Self is the band that we played with almost every single time at Forward Hall. They really liked us at Forward Hall once things kind of transitioned from that, again, beat down tough guy metalcore stuff, and things got a little more pop punk. They had to bring in some out of town acts from Ohio. And yeah, there was a band called Another Found Self, and we just played with them probably once or twice a month. The dude Brandon, who had the big beard, he was the bassist. Oh my God, man, they were so fun. They were so good. And I remember doing a sound check one day. We were on stage, and Zach, you started singing Boy Who Blocked His Own Shot. And Pat, I don't think you knew it. So Brandon asked to borrow your bass and like kind of, I mean, not to call us a super group, but some of their guys got on stage and like we all performed Boy Who Blocked His Own Shot together. And like that memory for me was so just like pivotal of like, man, I'm a part of this music scene. And like I have friends from out of town that we play shows with. Like I felt like a fucking king that day. Just like, I'm not just someone who goes to these things and tries to be a part of it. Like I am part of it. And not that our band ever got any respect from anyone, but I'll never forget that, man. Like Another Found Self.
should we
was
take a
big part of
sidestep
that time.
and do a quick oral history of our group and kind of go from the highs and lows at some of these venues? Should we describe Forward Hall? What direction you guys want to go in?
It's up to you, Zach.
I do not want to miss talking about the trance shows because they were some of our more popular and
List off some of the shows that weren't at Forward Hall in the Hangout. I'll go first. There was one at a fire hall.
Which one? There were 3 at fire halls.
There you go. There was one at every regional VFW in the Tri-County area.
Yeah,
which
played
were
with,
awesome shows in the summertime, by the way. Those were full of people.
Yeah, we played with Pick and Exit.
Who had the EP, the 8-Bit Adventure?
Pick and Exit.
Yeah, Pick and Exit. They were all right. I liked them a lot.
I remember
from Jersey.
I remember we had to sell, it was something like 18 tickets to that show for like $7 a piece or whatever. And if we sold above and beyond that, we kept the money. And we ended up making like $400 that show.
Yeah.
And we were like 15 years old, right? So like we just felt like, how could we possibly spend all this money? You know?
It was kind of a
we
racket
did.
because they were still at an age where, and we were very young when we did it, that your parents would still give you the $7 to go, right?
Right.
So it was just people buying T-shirts and going to these shitty shows. And I think Ricky Majeski, you know those, okay, so this is a quick aside for me. You know the rotation of things that haunt your dreams and keep you awake at night? Anyway, one of them is walking just blatantly out of a restaurant near the VFW in Northeast at the Pick and Exit show. And Ricky Majeski just walked up to me later. He's like, hey, man, I picked up your tortilla chips or whatever the hell, like appetizer I had ordered at this awful diner. It's like, nice, cool, man, thanks. Yeah. But anyway, it haunts me. I ghosted the bill and Ricky picked it up. It was like, had to have been a $1.70 for this like pretzel I got or whatever. But couldn't have been nicer about it, but I feel awful about it to this day.
Oh, man.
Anyway, the show went well.
The show was awesome. We played Alicia's song for the first time. Dude, we had a habit of playing just like way too long. I think we played like 15 songs, a bunch of Blink covers.
Yeah, there was no tight set. If we got any stage time at all, that we were just going to run through everything we had.
And people,
like there was no like, we didn't get like have a tight fight. Like, you know, like when you go to a concert now and you're like, they better get off the fucking stage so I can watch, the headliner. Where you're like, we got 18 whole songs, and we just wrote a 19th today. We're going to start with the 19th, and we're running through this whole fucking list in this VFW. And like 80% of the people there were in the other bands, just kind of waiting around.
Well, I remember getting really salty because after that show, people started saying like, "Oh, you're a cover band." Like people thought we were a cover band, but we played maybe 12 originals, 4 covers. I remember playing Wendy Clear that show. Always. What else did we cover? Probably a brand new song.
Once in a while, not very frequently.
But what were our like go-to covers?
There's a lot of Blank.
Yeah. It's probably just a lot of Blank.
Mostly Blank. Wendy Clear we had down.
Oh, dude, so good. Yeah, anyways, that shit was fun. We bought you a bass amp after that. And
that's what we spent all that money on, was that
I was
really
gonna say,
nice
hopefully somebody
Behringer.
got to use that thing. Zach, did you use it through the years?
I don't know what happened.
I don't know where I have no idea what happened to it either. I mean, that was an expensive amp. It was a really nice amp.
That was an awful purchase for you guys to make, honestly.
It kept blowing out the light bulbs in my basement because it was so damn loud.
I mean, that thing was like professional grade. I mean, it was too much power for a band like us.
Well, this is great. This is a great story. Pat, as our bass player, learned the bass.
Which in those types of bands and those types of scenes was the least talented musician. I don't care what band you were.
It was just the
other friend. Exactly. I like frequently missed practices for like baseball practice and stuff. It's just like someone to strum along. Anyway, I feel like that had to be made clear.
Well, we would show up at most of our shows, actually all of them, and up until the point we had purchased an amp for Pat, hoping that someone would allow us to use their bass amp for Pat. And I think as teenagers, we were like, somebody will let us use it. Yeah, definitely. I mean, somebody will. And we rolled with that. There was
for years.
no stopping. Yeah. Yeah. Well, at least a year, at least 2 years, or at most 2 years before we bought the amp. But yeah, we were totally reliant on somebody else's equipment for.
Can I bring this all the way back to the very beginning for one hot second, and then we can move right along from it?
Yeah,
sure,
add some context to it. I think we're just kind of going through it as we feel it out. Hopefully people are having a picture be painted.
Right. I don't want it to just be all of us reminiscing on our old band, but hey, the show's called Reminiscent. You knew what the you were in for.
It's true. We haven't reached the century mark yet. We're being self-indulgent for a second.
So it was 8th grade. I had just joined your guys' public school, found out, Zach, you're a musician. James McCallion was a poet at the time. And
that week.
Right. So, there ended up being like 11 guys at my house. And we ended up narrowing it down to just the 3 of us.
Yeah, no shade to James. He was just into it that day.
Right.
He was a good soccer player and a good friend to all of us, but I don't think his heart was really in it. And that's saying something coming from me because my heart was barely in it.
So we threw a mock show at my house, and I remember blasting MySpace bulletins, and also just something, again, that like haunts your dreams, right? I was convinced that the way you spelled mock was MOCH. Like, I don't know how many MySpace bulletins I put out saying mock show spelled that way. And our lineup was me on drums, and I very clearly remember covering American Idiot because that album just came out and rocked everyone's world. But Zach, you were on guitar, and Pat, you played bass and you sang. Do you remember that? You were the singer for
we
one
covered.
show.
We used to cover some Weezer too. I think Make Believe had just come out, and we covered Beverly Hills just because it was some simple chords, and we just it was an easy cover to learn on a few days' notice.
So Pat was singing through an acoustic guitar amp, and you didn't really want to sing, but we didn't have anyone at the time. And then
I don't think Zach had come into his own yet because we were, again, children at the time. I think people gathered in your living room when we were like, it's $1 at the door or something. And people were like, oh, really? Or like, I'm the only person here. I remember Mark Valentine just like, I mean, I could leave. We were like, that's cool, man.
But we had like 11 people in my living room. I don't know how, but my mom let us throw a show in our house. And after the show, we were all talking, and someone was like, why didn't you play Sugar We're Going Down? So I get on drums and I start playing, and that's the first time Zach grabbed the microphone and started singing, and we were like, what the f***? Why weren't you singing all along?
Yeah, it was immediately clear for sure.
Because I wanted to be Angus Young, and I didn't want to be Bon Scott or Brian Johnson.
Dude,
Okay,
Brian
I wanted to
Johnson.
be Angus
You
Young.
did have you taped a piece of paper that said "rock on" to the back of the guitar, which I loved unironically. I thought that was the coolest. I was like, yeah, man, because we just watch Wayne's World all the time, and we're just total, I don't know, watching Ace Ventura and Wayne's World as young teens giggling our asses off at sleepovers with pizza and stuff. Like it was that era. So we're like, yeah, man, rock on. No, you rock on. I don't know. I loved it.
So we went from that first show in my house. We played Penn State Battle of the Bands at 2:30, and no one was there except for the staff.
I think we had to skip school.
we had to get out of school
to
early.
get there. Yeah. To open, we were obviously the first act because we were, 14.
Sorry, Mrs. Duncan. I got a gig.
Right.
And then
we've got some faces to
the
melt.
second show, Harbor Creek Battle of the Bands, ended up bringing a lot of people out to that show. 3 bands played. We played second. That metalcore band, was it Kansas City Massacre that played?
Yes, dude. Tony what?
Tony Heibel. Okay, so at this point we picked up Adam Stolarski, who is playing guitar, and he had a 5-watt crate practice amp. And when
I had a 5-watt crate practice. Oh, he did too, didn't he?
He did. And when
Adam had the Marshall, I thought.
Oh, you're right. That little thing.
Adam always had nice stuff.
When we got to the venue, the sound person was like, "Yeah, we can't use that thing. It was just too small." So he asked if we could use the Kansas City Massacre's half stack,
Oh yeah.
And it was the slimiest, sludgiest metal tone. And I just remember Adam f***ing with this dude's settings. And them just watching from the wing, shaking their heads, man. So we played that show. We sold a bunch of t-shirts, came in second place because the band that played after us did a really good cover of Crazy Train. Lost in Acadia. Why do I remember this stuff? And
I feel like I remember the name, man.
It was just, that's how it started. And then things kind of happened pretty quickly from there. And again, we never reached any level of success, but we just ended up playing a lot. And those first 2 shows, looking back, it's that's how a 13-year-old's first show should have happened.
Oh, the living room show?
All of it.
Yeah, it was very MySpace, was Bandcamp big too? Social networking, there was Bandcamp survived for 5 to 7 years, I'm guessing. I didn't do the research.
It's still there.
Oh, is it still?
Yeah.
So you can still organize shows on it? I remember kind of being in the scene, look us up on Bandcamp, man, or EPs there. You had to have a 4-song EP on there. Maybe, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, it was.
Did we have one? Or did we just have the MySpace? Because MySpace was also big, for musical groups as well.
Yeah.
We didn't have a Bandcamp, but we did have a 4-song CD that we had help recording solely by playing that Penn State Battle of the Bands and accumulating those hours at Diecaster Studios.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned it a couple dozen episodes ago, but Trevor Huster, the guy that recorded us when we were 12 or 13, actually lives a couple miles away from me right now in Colorado, and we went out and got coffee a couple weeks ago.
Nice.
So
how's he doing?
He's doing good, man. He's just recording out here and doing a lot of video work and looking good.
So he couldn't have been nicer. I think I came in between basketball scrimmages because it was almost winter and it was going to be basketball season soon. So I was in my jersey. I might be over embellishing here, but sweaty from the scrimmage or whatever. And he was just pointing here, I'll put a capo on, play these 2 strings instead of those 2 frets. He's it's just easier, man. I'm just dude, you are saving my fucking life right now. Because I am obviously not warmed up to play music at the moment. Just a numbered jersey on as a shirt. Just fucking your guys' life up. You've been there at the studio all day, just laying it down. Zach probably could have done a fine job on the bass, but you guys were very good to me. Let me stroll in and lay down the shittiest bass track. So thank you for that is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So, what are the other venues? We had VFW. Zach, I guess it was mainly you through these shows in the fire hall across the street from your house where the fire department literally moved 4 of their trucks across the street, cleaned the floors for us. And we had a couple shows there. Actually, we brought Pick and Exit back, and had like 150
I mean, I feel like those
people
were our
there.
house shows. We had a good thing going there. I felt like a good home crowd, and right, we had at least had one or two really good shows where we filled a 4-band bill at least, right?
Yeah, and they were mainly benefit show. Well, one was, but the two other ones were just like, hey, we want to do this thing here, Mr. Firehall manager man, and
they loved it.
Case in point,
It was amazing.
loved it.
And
Lots of people.
Oh, Case in Point played. I forgot about them.
Oh,
Ian
yeah.
Bowers was the bassist / vocalist, right?
Oh yeah. Also in
Or were
Yeah.
you just saying the phrase "case in point" because you were making a point?
I was, but I forgot about Case in Point. They played. That's right. They had
some stuff. They didn't have as much stuff as Falling Hollywood, I wouldn't say, which was Falling Hollywood was probably the most tabloidy band of the Erie scene. Am I off there? Is it just because we went to school with those dudes, Tom? Or I feel like they were oft talked about, and they had a couple bops. I thought, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like there was this weird, like, unspoken, like, competition between us because it seemed like maybe they took themselves more seriously, and part of me was like, oh, you guys are trying so hard or something. I don't know. Like, I always liked all the guys in that band, but something about
I feel like
it,
we always got along too.
something about it like rubbed me the wrong way, and it might have just been like jealousy where people seemed to like their stuff more and I didn't really enjoy it that much, so it just seemed like, what do people like them and not us? And of course I was 15 and immature.
I think it was mostly the fact that we were in high school. Also, Jess Yoakum was the girlfriend of the lead singer, and she made awesome music videos for them, which they had it was a cool multimedia experience, I gotta say, and I mean that with all seriousness.
Yeah.
And that one hook, I know you better than I know myself. It sticks with me.
No, it's good, dude. It's very good.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's a line that I've heard about 100,000,000 times before.
Okay, Zach's still jealous.
Zach's still salty.
No. I never really enjoyed their music either. I really thought ours was better, and that's just how I feel, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
I think they take us to Forward Hall, which was in the city on French in 26th, right? Or 24th, maybe?
12th? I don't know.
26th
I might be off
Street.
on the French part. It was up near Academy.
Peach and 26th. Peach and 26th.
There you go.
Okay. But it was definitely more of a city setting. The Hangout, you went out to Edinburgh to go there. It was kind of, you're going to be there for the evening. You had to get a bite to eat, maybe at the Taco Bell nearby, which Zach worked at actually for a little small time when he went to Edinburgh, right?
Please.
We don't have to go there. But Forward Hall was definitely more of an urban setting. It was a closer setting. You were more piled in on each other. They had like a little green room, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
Yes.
Were the shows better there or worse? I don't really recall if it made for a better playing experience.
It was a different vibe.
It was a closer, tighter feeling. It got hotter in there, so you were sweaty, and people like you when you're sweaty. And it could look like more than 100 people in there when it could look like that if it was like only 50 because it's dark and it's packed. And there was off to the side, there was the one side was a raised, like a platformed
sitting area, right?
Yeah. It's like almost like a cafe kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of
I don't
weird
know,
out
it
of
was
place
up there, and but it was cool. It offered some I don't know, different scenery. It wasn't that typical floor of a venue. It's a little different. And if you were going to see a cool band there, you could go up there if you're lucky and see over everybody else.
Right.
And if you were short.
So to me, the Forward Hall felt like less of a community than Edinburgh did, the Hangout. And I think that's just because it wasn't in like a college town. But it was definitely a different crowd, and it felt more, I mean, less hangouty and more like, I don't want to say like professional, but like, I don't know.
There's definitely more of a serious edge to it.
Yeah.
I felt. Like it wasn't a VW or VFW show. It wasn't a Fire Hall show. It wasn't out in Edinburgh at the college. It was definitely like more likely to see maybe the dudes with boots in the pit just stomping hard and stuff. I don't know. To me, there was more of a like kind of a weirdly serious edge with it, mostly because we had no idea who the owner would have been. Or am I picking up your drift correctly here, Tom? Or
yeah,
like it did feel more professional, or like, oh crap, Forward Hall. Like I guess we got to try to put on our best show here. I mean, they had the fact that I feel like Zach had an anecdote where Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like it was your first time seeing somebody smoke like marijuana in a public place when you like went over the stage looking at the green room, and there was just college-age dudes or young adults who were in bands actually going for it, not still in high school.
Yeah.
Did that strike you as in the same vein, or?
Yeah, for sure.
That was the venue for that. Yeah, if I think you put it the right way, Pat, too. Like if you're on the bill at Forward Hall, it's like, oh, you're doing it. You're kind of making it a little bit. And not, I mean, no huge
Right.
accomplishment, but I mean, we should be putting on our best gig, because if we get like a recurring thing with a bigger band coming in town, that's a chance for huge exposure and a
Right,
really,
like you
fun
can kind of open
opportunity
for somebody with a little more momentum than we would have had. To me, like Tom, you kind of said it when you described the first, it's like our first however many shows were all Battle of the Bands. It's like, oh, well, yeah, of course, anybody can get on the bill in a Battle of the Bands, right? It's just a sign-up talent contest. But, as our story went a little further in, you start to meet a few more bands. Are there any bands in particular you associate with those Forward Hall shows? Or
Another Found Self.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I remember seeing Whitechapel there, which is not a local band, but
oh god,
Pat, you talk about them. Oh,
okay. Can I say that the fact that this was like peak breakdown in every song era,
yeah,
and they took it to a whole nubba lubba. I never got the pig squeal thing. I just never listened to a full song with any of that.
I love it. I still love it. But I went the day after I got a really bad concussion. I think the Devil Wears Prada might have been playing that show, and it was just earth-shattering sub-drop after sub-drop, because every verse, every chorus, every bridge was just one long breakdown. And like, I just remember being huddled up in the corner, fetal position, holding my head. Don't know why I didn't just leave. Like, I could have left at any moment, but I just like didn't want to miss the experience of being at a show with friends. But I think most of my fond memories are at the Hangout, because it was way more carefree. It was just more fun. And with that comes Stillframe Sky. And they were a much better, more refined, kind of poppy version of what we were doing. And they would play headlining shows and sell out Forward Hall, which was maybe a 250, 300 cap, which for a local band is insane, right? I mean, there's still videos online of them playing their like worship songs at the end, and just the place is packed. And I had so much fun at those shows. I fucking worshipped those dudes. Tony Heibel, who was in Kansas City Massacre, who we mentioned earlier, so funny. They were like going to kick our asses after the show because we got second place and they got third, and then I ended up being like,
he was definitely in a different place.
Oh, he was a totally different person. We ended up becoming super good friends. I toured in his band for a while. He ended up being the bassist
Run
in
Forever?
Stillframe Sky, and later Run Forever. And
that dude's got a knack for being in bands with great names. I always loved Kansas City Massacre. I can't explain why. I just really loved it, like that band name.
I think just having the word massacre in your band name was a very 2003 thing.
And it like sounds like it was very descriptive of what the experience is that you were in for. Like, we acquired a half stack, and we're going to use every freaking ounce of it to be grungy and steely and just lay this down for just real
just
quick.
Gain and mids.
Yeah.
Well, dude, just still, I mean, some of my best memories just of my life were at Stillframe Sky shows. And like, oh my God, I was so in love with Fallon Hall during that time. And she was always there doing photos.
She did your senior photos.
Yeah, man.
It was a cool name. It was a cool scene name.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's her real name though. So,
it sounds sceney to me. I don't know.
But just like, God, seeing all my friends, dude, like I wouldn't trade anything to like go back and be a teenager again. But some of those nights at the Hangout are just like, I remember when they announced that they were closing it down, dude, I fucking cried, man. Like, I wasn't even as embedded in that as many other people in the scene were. But dude, I mean, I would find rides with strangers to go to those shows, you know? And Stillframe Sky brought all the friends out, brought all the good feelings out. And
When Zach went to Tyrannic Fusion, Tom, were you in Run Forever at this point? Like on that minibus that they put bunks in and stuff?
I don't know. I think Run Forever happened slightly before Tyrannic Fusion because it was like summer before I went into college, and I think I remember coming back from like a break, like Thanksgiving break or something at college, and seeing Tyrannic Fusion. I mean, they might have been doing stuff at the same time, but
you're right. You're
Okay.
right, Tom. Yeah, because you went on tour and before college, and I didn't start with Tyrannic Fusion when it turned into the 5-piece that it turned into.
Yeah.
And that was after you and I played with them as the Truce. And that was...
I like the Truce.
That
I love
was
the Truce.
our freshman year where you came back, and we met those dudes as Tyrannic Fusion. We had known them before, but
Right.
we knew that's where we met them as the three of them were Tyrannic Fusion.
What was his name? Nick from Tyrannic Fusion. He played bass for us for like 2 shows because Pat, you ended up
Mercifully letting you guys do your thing, yeah.
I don't know if we ever actually discussed this, and as we're winding down the 45 minutes, maybe it's a good time to come clean about this, but we kind of called a band meeting one day on a day we were supposed to practice, and we kind of thought that like Pat's obviously super busy with sports and this and that. We end up having to find replacements for him for shows. So like maybe we should have a discussion about him like stepping down or whatever. So when we were at this practice, Pat, you were like, before we do anything, I want to say something. And then you said that you were going to like respectfully bow out. And I just remember it being like the biggest relief of my life to like not have to tell my best friend maybe he should think about stepping down, and you just did it. I don't know if I ever said that to you, but like, yeah, it was like...
I don't remember how it unfolded, to be quite honest. All I
Yeah, I
remember
don't
is
either.
that James wrote, you know those little yellow composition books with the red bindings?
Yeah.
Yes.
It all started with James writing just some fucking poem after like I was watching a Homestar Runner video, and James was like, dude, I wrote some stuff down. And then we were in Tom's house with 11 dudes, with Bresky being the guitarist that would later become Adam. And then all of a sudden there were shows and like stuff to do.
Right.
Like it was such an organic hanging out session and just sleepovers. And the shows didn't even leave your house until the first one was over. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it was just like, it's a so slow, organic friends hanging thing. And we were still such young teens. And then it was legitimately costing you guys money and hurting the image for sure. I mean, there was a point where, and legitimately my dad had Cavs tickets or something. And we were like, had a paid gig at we played a string of shows at one of the gay clubs in Erie. And they were giving us a healthy amount of money, right? You guys had to get Ian Bowers to fill in for me, I believe. But I guess I couldn't wrap my head around it as a teen or whatever. But and to a certain degree, there was at least a profitability there, right? At least some momentum, right? I don't know. From your perspective, you guys can elaborate on it more. But yeah, it got to a point where it was like, oh, we've gotten here from where it was, and didn't see that coming at all. I mean,
Right.
Which speaks to the level of, we went back and we recorded some of our favorite songs a few years ago, and it was like, oh crap, this stuff's pretty good.
Right.
So, this stuff was all right. There was
It's
a little
hard.
momentum there.
Yeah, it's hard to tell how it actually sounds when it is reflecting off of a lot of sheetrock in Tom's little basement.
Well, we don't
And
know what, like we're plugging stuff into the wrong stuff. And we're, sonically, we're really almost getting in our own way more often than not. You know what I mean? In terms of amps and how we're
we didn't know what we were doing. But we were able to write.
But yeah, anyway, it was a no-brainer at all. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner. I mean, I remember being at the Barron show, or the Penn State Barron campus Battle of the Bands, one of the first shows, and it was like raining, and I assumed baseball practice was going to be canceled, and I was just like texting my buddy Costco, who played for the baseball team, just like, it's canceled, right? He's like, yeah, they just did. You're good. I'm like, all right, cool, because my band is playing a show. So. It was just always oddly stressful, in the strangest way.
Yeah, it was always frustrating. And I remember like we had to find like a replacement for you like day of the show. But it wasn't like, Pat, why are you doing this to us or whatever? It was just like...
No, it never was.
It was just like, I want my friend here, and I know that he has obligations. I just wish things could be different, because like we didn't want some like someone who's like super good at bass and like can always play the parts perfectly. Like we wanted our best friends together, you know?
We just wanted Pat.
I know. And like,
well, I wish hearing all of this, I wish floating around from social thing to social thing just without ever committing to anything really. Maybe it's a defense mechanism or whatever. But I guess hearing this now, I didn't realize that, Tom, this was your like, at the time, maybe I didn't realize it in real time that you had found your it or your thing. You know what I mean? Looking back on it now, it's just had we put more eggs into that basket collectively, all four of us, and the timing would have been, I don't know. It's definitely interesting to hear and think about and look back upon, certainly. But anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is you really found I didn't realize you had so many fun memories of the Hangout from like a personal nostalgia sense.
Yeah, I mean, that whole band was like, I don't know. I think that's where I really found my entrepreneurial drive, and my whole life was that band for 5 years, and we're kind of coming up on the end of the show here. Maybe we can all kind of share our favorite memories of the band. Somehow the show or this episode turned into reflections on our old band. But
can we do our favorite Erie bands real quick?
Yeah.
I'll go first real quick. Calling Blue Skies, Can't Be Topped. I still have that CD. It is front to back one of the greatest albums I think I've ever heard.
Dope.
And I was hoping that you guys either had heard it or could, because I'm ready to fight tooth and nail for Calling Blue Skies, because I don't think they can be topped in the early 2000s Erie scene. I know you're probably, I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say.
Well, I mean, I think I told you a couple weeks ago that the only reason we got on the Penn State show is because we were number one on the wait list, and Calling Blue Skies broke up, and then we took their spot. And I think you called it one of the worst trade deals of the century or something.
we were after their time. I think they would play to people 2 grades above us, like my sister and things like that.
Sure.
So that's the only reason I really had the CD in the car anyway. But man, I listen to that thing still on road trips, just front to back. I thought they were a band out of Harbor Creek. They were really good. But anyway, that's my turn. I just really we couldn't do an Erie Scene episode without me forcing the words Calling Blue Skies into this podcast. So it had to be done, and I'm sorry for doing that. But
I mean, Stillframe Sky was definitely my At their album release show, I painted my chest and drew Stillframe on my knuckles. I had to include my thumbs for that one. And I mean, I think a lot of their music still holds up, but also like more than just their music, and the people itself is the community that they brought together at the Hangout just time after time.
Tyler's a dope dude. And One Day at a Time, I've mentioned it multiple times in the show. I want them to re-record. That's a hit song. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. Calling Blue Skies' song "Fix Instead of Forget" could have been a hit at any time on any of those bands that ended up making it. Right? You think about AFI and all these freaking random bands in the early 2000s that straightens things and wore tight this and that. But I think "One Day at a Time" by Stillframe could have been one of those for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Zach?
Well, the Stillframe Sky, I'm with you on that because, Tyler James is still a good buddy of mine, and I ended up playing in a band with him later down the road. And in fact, Pat, One Day at a Time was actually re-recorded and replayed and re-performed by Radio Empire, the band that we were in together.
True.
And
does the search continue?
I mean, it's still out there.
I'll find it.
I'm telling you, I love that song.
And Tom and I went to this basement show up for Stillframe somewhere on like Stertania or something. And it was so fun. And those guys were just that friendly and that just cool to be around. They were so much cooler than we were. And they were just so fortunate to like, hey, let's go to John's. Let's eat some pizza and talk about music. I'm like, oh, okay. I can't afford to eat any pizza, but I'll sit there and just talk. And
that was always a place to feel really cool.
Yeah.
As if you were with another band at John's in Edinburgh, which is a legendary pizza place in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. If you were there eating pepperoni pizza, you probably just had a really good time.
Oh, yeah.
We're in the middle of that.
Reflecting on that basement show, Zach, I think I know what you're talking about. And I think Domestic War also played that show. And again, they were just beat down hardcore. And I remember all these tough guy hardcore dudes played first, and then Stillframe Sky, which is like super poppy, and all those hardcore dudes lost their shit for Stillframe Sky. And it just made me think, like, back when we were younger, this would have been 3 or 4 years before, when we were around before Stillframe was a thing, we would play with these hardcore bands and everyone hated us. But then seeing them be able to do something, obviously a much better version, but similar, and get so much love and respect was like absolutely mind blowing for me. But the other thing I remember about that night is that was the night like Fallon Hall got her fisheye camera lens.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember her running down the stairs, grabbing my arm and being like, Tom, look, I got a fisheye lens. And I had no idea what the she was talking about. But the fact that like she wanted to come up and tell me, I was like, oh my God, are we going to be in love forever?
I remember those pictures and how sweet they turned out.
I still
and I was
have
in one of them.
Still have them from my dad's house.
I remember you saying like, dude, she's got a fisheye lens. She's going to take pictures of our band. I'm like, I missed the boat on the fisheye lens thing. What is the is happening? What the, like, this is a good thing? Yes. Okay. Like, I wasn't against it, but I was just like, I am going to go along with this. I have no idea what's going on, but it's been acquired, and we're going to take those style of photos.
So let's give our favorite 400 par moments, and then we'll get the song of the week and get out of here. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right. So I think one of my favorite moments was our last show, and it was at the fire hall up on like Upper Peach. And I remember Sound City Saints from Pittsburgh played, the AKAs, Stillframe Sky.
The AKAs.
Yeah, from I think they were from Pittsburgh, right?
Something.
And
they had fancy looking posters.
And we played kind of in the middle, and Pat, you call me a digital hoarder, whatever. I still have footage from my Motorola Razr 2008 of this sea of people. The show was sold out, had I think it was like 350 cap, and people still, and that didn't include like bands that were there, and there were a lot of bands playing, people sneaking in, like there were probably 450 people crammed into this venue, and like for 35 minutes, 40 minutes, we had their full attention, and we played a killer set. And I remember we just thought, like, it's our last show, we have to have Pat play. And I think, Pat, you just told us to have Nick play because he was already playing with us, and he could do this scream that we wanted at one point in our song.
Yeah, which I think if I was there, I would have been against the scream or something. Had I still been in the band. So I was like, you guys, you're a new thing, and it's good and beautiful, but I do want to come and watch.
Yeah, and you filmed the show. You were switching off and on with Cameron Wazorek, I think, and the footage was on one of our high school computers until it crashed, and we lost everything. But I remember playing Geneva, which was our last song before going into the Sorry I Quit the Band, and my introduction to that got me excommunicated from your parents for years. And we just had this...
Which was politically a wise move on my part not to be on stage during that, because his parents still talk to me all the time.
So just the end of Geneva, we were just blasting 3 chords, and it was like probably 48 bars of just like me smashing my 21-inch crash ride as hard as I could and just ringing those chords out so hard. And I remember not being able to see because my eyes were just filled with tears. Like I knew that like this was it. After this outro, we're done. And it wasn't like even, I don't know if it was bittersweet, but like looking back, just the emotion that I felt during that time was like more raw than most things I've ever experienced in my life. And fuck, dude, such a powerful, powerful memory. And then going right into the kind of playful, Sorry I Quit the Band, just put a smile on all our faces. And that's still like one of my favorite songs I've ever been a part of to this day. And when I think of our band, I think of that moment, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Tom, put a link to that song in the place where you put the links
in the show notes
in this podcast. Show notes. That's what that's called.
I'll put it in.
I need
there.
like a vocabulary list or something.
Right.
We'll get you the glossary. We'll put the glossary in the show notes.
Show notes for this episode, reminiscentpodcast.com/episode/99. What about you guys? Best moments?
Pat, go for it.
All right. I think part of me wants to go back and pick an early one because can I do two?
Yeah.
All right, they tie. One was the reunion show at that new place.
The
that
Summit.
They were first built.
Oh.
The Summit show. It was like a quote-unquote reunion, but I played with you guys one last thing, and there was a lot of pictures taken at that one where I wore Cameron's clothes, who was a much smaller person than me at the time. But we did a set, and I think it was oddly like there was a good amount of people that came from school, right? Am I getting this right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it was just a well-attended, fun show. And it was like, oh, wow, there were a good amount of people that liked our stuff and came out for us.
Yeah, the Trees played before, which was Zach and my acoustic thing. And then we opened with Paper Planes, I remember. And it was our reunion show, but also like our second last show. Like it was
right.
And we played with some pretty like big bands from Ohio that day. Nevertheless, I think was the band that headlined. Really good show. And yeah, I have so many pictures that our friend Kelsey took that night. They're still like on my Facebook, so I'll make a photo album in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I remember not playing basketball the winter of my senior year, so we had been hanging out pretty regularly, and I remember hitting the right frets that night mostly. You know what I mean? Just like actually being a part of the band and like really bringing it home with you guys, which was very fun. But mostly, I think the music video we made on some dumb little camera for The Girl Next Door that you wrote, Tom. Mostly, I think just the images in that capture my favorite parts, which was mostly just hanging out and walking around,
jumping off my roof,
just hanging out, being teens, having fun. Mostly was what it was all. That's why when we briefly a few minutes ago talked about the weirdness that came, it was like it was weird that it even came to a point where weirdness had to be
right.
Had, you know what I mean? Because
right.
to me, it was the whole of it was all from start to finish, just very fun. I mean, we found ourselves in such weird spots because of such weird James McCallion poetry. You know what I mean? Like playing at a gay club several times and being pretty well received each time. You know what I mean? Just like getting paid too much money for teens to have to play music that we weren't even sure we were getting right. Yeah, but mostly I enjoyed very much the hanging out, and it's crazy that it led to, again, moderate success, but the stuff it led to still blows my mind. So the second to last or the second to last show and the hanging out for me was literally my pleasure. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah,
I have to go with 2, if that's okay.
Jesus Christ! I'll allow it. Damn.
It's 99. We don't get to. We're literally being reminiscent. I mean, we hit 100 as soon as this episode's over. So I say lay it on thick.
Well, the band had a brief amount of time hold up in my basement, my house in Lawrence Park.
Yeah, we did.
And that's where we would gig or practice, and we would sleep over there. And so number 1 for me is after a long night of maybe watching Wayne's World or something and not drinking or doing anything that we hadn't discovered quite yet, walking around and then eventually winding up on my garage roof.
Yes.
Damn. That's a good one. I can't believe I didn't even use that.
Yes. Before you go on, Zach, I'm so sorry. Before you go on, this is the last episode that we will have with this show art. And the show art is literally based off of this moment that Zach is about to describe.
Oh, good point.
So we're up there 2, 3 in the morning, something like that, just full of energy. Why? I don't know. But we end up with these conversations having nothing to do with music. We're just buds. We're just good buds. And it just doesn't get much better than that. And later in life, when we did end up recording all of that music for real, we named one of the releases "It Just Spins."
It Just Spins.
And that ties back to the universe talk we had. And Pat had a rock and he threw it up in the air. He's like, it just spins, man. That's it.
I remember Adam had it was definitely before like the heaviness of being an adult set in.
Yeah.
It was just teens trying to take a shot at explaining whatever it is, right? Life and the goings on, etc. But I think we actually probably came to a pretty good conclusion. But it was honestly probably 4 hours of discussion just laying on a roof, which was about as movie-like as it can get.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it was a beautiful summer night. Stars were out. It was spinning. And yeah, and I suppose number 2 might have been driving home from that first time going down to DC to record, driving home that time, understanding what we had just accomplished. Like, oh man, there's a lot of time squeezed into 3 days, like a lot of
Zach,
feelings squeezed into 3 days.
The DC sessions were super fun.
Yeah.
And then hearing what Tom had crunched together in the 12 hours. Like, you gotta listen to this part. It's here. This is like the rough go. And we pulled it up at Pat's house when we got back, and Jay Holmes goes, tight guitar work. He's like, I was like, thanks, Jay. And Tommy had sent a message like something along the lines of the ease and success of the recording. It's like, man, this is like a professional thing, because Tom, you're a professional, and it happened. And it's like, wow, all this time squeezed into these 3 days, and a lot of hot dogs and a lot of Yingling, and anything's possible.
Yeah. Those are good, Zach.
That was really good. Tom, yours was good too. Damn, I guess all of the best moments were enjoyable. I will say that was an easy road trip because we already had the CD that we wanted to listen to desperately. You burned a quick version of what we had just laid down. We were in college still, like early college, so some of this was still pretty fresh in our minds. But yeah, just on repeat for all 7 hours. It just zipped by like super quick.
Yeah, that was, man. And we're trying to recreate that sometime next year as well, correct? So
hopefully in January. I don't know how it depends. We can make it as musical or non-musical as you guys want, but I think that's kind of what this podcast re-inspired was, an upped effort to stay in touch and not let time slowly pull us apart, right?
Right. Well, God, that's.
That show was good though, Tom. I remember seeing you guys play. There was a lot. It was just coming off the stage. That place was full.
Yeah.
We still have our favorite song.
John.
Oh, okay. So quick amendment, possibly. So the honorable mention this week, am I allowed to just say it that way?
Sure.
Is 99 Red Balloons, which Goldfinger had covered when we were coming up and becoming a band. It was our first song that we covered for the first year, possibly. It was just the same song.
Well, it was the first song we ever played all together.
Power chord changes, getting our skills down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Power chord changes. Yep.
And it's a 99th episode, so that's very fitting. But Goldfinger just crushed that cover.
Mm-hmm.
Some might disagree, but you're an idiot. It was really good. And we played that over and over, right? Kind of till we realized what we were doing at first as young teens.
Yeah.
So that gets an honorable mention.
99 Red Balloons for episode 99.
Perfect.
There you go. Favorite Four and Apart song?
I want to say Penn State away because it was such a bop, but
which also is the ditty to the show.
Yes, the intro and outro is me singing the lead guitar part. But when I listened to #YOLO, which at the time was called You Only Live Once, and by the time we came around to recording it in like 2011, YOLO was a saying, so we just went with it. The bridge to that song just reminds me so much of the Dangerous Summer's first album. It makes me feel like, were we ahead of our time? Like, would we have hit harder if we came out 4 years later? But the end of that song is so powerful, and every bit of me just thinks there's no way that you, Zach, at the age of 16 should have ever been writing songs that good and lyrics that powerful. And it makes me really appreciate that I could have made music with you.
Well, thanks, Doug. It was, I don't know. I don't know what the hell I was doing. It just happened.
It's just pure genius.
I guess it's just genius.
Yeah. Oozing out of your glands. Your glands.
Your glands. I'm going to go, I want to do two of all these, and I hate to break all the rules, but I like, there's a fondness for Screw It, because we were not swearing when we were young enough to have written that song. I forget what we were angsty about. But I think Cat Eats Porridge. Is that the one where my friends tried to save me, blah, blah, blah?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
I like that one. And that was like time period, like fitting it too. It hits pretty hard. I really like that one.
Yeah. Zach.
Oh, man.
Or actually, you know what? This one's To Remember Me By was really good. Or like our Cartel song. Anyway, I could go with that, but any of those.
You could, because they're all really good. Well, you know what, Pat? Screw It is a good one. I'm glad you said it. Tom, I'm really glad you like Penn State 08, because I really like the structure of that song too. It's close to my favorite. And I'm going to go with I Quit the Band.
Yeah, God. Yeah.
Because it was perhaps one of the best songs we wrote, and it took
No effort.
Considerably no time at all to do
2 chords in 20 minutes.
It was 3 chords, and we did it the day before the last gig.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this was really, really simple. And it ended up being incredibly powerful to play live the one time. And then as soon as we had that super crunched, fast mix down, and we played it over some car speakers, it's like,
yeah.
damn, where did this thing come from?
It's a sing-along for sure.
Yeah. God, those are good. I'm going to have links to everything I can get my hands on in the show notes. Again, reminiscentpodcast.com/episode/99. You can find us on Twitter at _reminiscentfm. Still, again, not sure what we're going to do about next week in terms of artwork and stuff. We'll get it figured out. But this was as reminiscent as it gets with this episode. And I'm looking forward to what the show is going to become. And again, this is probably
we got Paramore and Fall Out Boy episodes coming soon, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do a couple drafts, maybe a Green Day draft, a Blink draft. Lots of early 2000s stuff to kind of get in and dig around with. And if you have suggestions for an episode, tweet at us.
Yeah, and we're going to continue with some of the mailbag stuff just because it's fun. You can ask us questions at reminiscentpodcast.com/AMA. It all goes into a Google Drive spreadsheet that we can all see. And it's just it's fun for everyone. So
ask me anything.
This is a crash collision course towards the Click 5 episode. I just need everyone to know that going in. And when we get there, we'll feel it and we'll know it and we'll enjoy it, I think.
All right. Everyone's waiting for that one, Pat.
It'll be just the one we're looking for, quite frankly. I'm sorry. But also I want to do it. Anyway, goodbye, everybody. I love you both very much.
Love you guys.
Love you too, fellas.
See you.
Bye.
Ba 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 ba.